So this has been a pretty great year for all sorts of sports tech, whether that's watches, bike computers, action cameras. There's been a lot of good stuff that's come out this year. So what I thought I'd do is put together a list of all my top picks when it comes to sports technology that's come out in 2024. But not just that, while we're at it, I thought I'd even toss in some gear that I haven't necessarily done full reviews on, but gear that I do personally use that I've been stoked on, as I've had plenty of you out there ask about stuff like what cameras I use, what kind of bike I'm riding, and even what I'm wearing. So this is going to be the full-on 2024 gear of the year that I can recommend. Okay, so starting out with action cameras. So there were some pretty big releases this year from GoPro, Insta360, as well as DJI. And after testing all of them, my two top picks out of the three are going to be the Insta360 Ace 2 Pro and the GoPro Hero 13 Black. So what I like about the Insta360 Ace 2 Pro is that it's very much a pro level action camera where the image quality is pretty incredible for one, but the audio quality is also phenomenal. So they have this new like wind guard thing up front that helps filter out wind noise, and this thing actually works where it produces some really fantastic audio quality where I don't really have to worry about having an additional mic when I'm out riding. The downside to this camera though is that it is on the heavier side of things and it is the heaviest out of the bunch. Other than that though, I could definitely recommend this camera. Now with the Hero 13 Black from GoPro, so the camera itself didn't really get any meaningful upgrades on the inside where it was basically the same as the Hero 12, other than some changes to the battery and some other small things. But the big news with the 13 Black were all the accessories like the new lens mods. Now although the camera itself didn't really change all that much, the lenses really did add a lot of capability to this camera, and the lens that helped me out a lot as a creator was their macro lens mod, since I need to get footage of displays of watches and bike computers for this channel. Action cameras really aren't designed for getting close-up shots. If anything, the exact opposite, where their strength is getting super wide-angle shots. But the macro lens mod on the 13 Black, that extended the functionality a ton, where I used to have to get that kind of footage with my phone. But now I can get both super wide-angle shots as well as macro shots all with one camera and don't have to worry about damaging my phone while riding. Now, even though the 13 Black and the Ace 2 Pro are really capable cameras, the action camera I tend to grab the most is going to be this Insta360 Go 3S, and this may not have the wildest specs out there. It doesn't even record 4K 60, but it does do 4K 30, which is usable for most of the footage that I need. So when it comes to image quality, the Ace 2 Pro and the 13 Black are certainly going to be a step up from this, but the reason I grabbed this camera is simply the convenience, where this thing on its own is really, really tiny, and then when you pop it back into its pod, it's just kind of like the normal action camera size. But the size of this camera itself is pretty incredible, where if you use it with a magnetic lanyard, I can actually wear this under my shirt or jersey and have a chest mount and not have to worry about wearing like a separate harness like I do have to do with these. And then another advantage of being magnetic is that I can just go ahead and place it on any metal surface for any quick recordings that I need. Now I do wish that had 4K 60, I really do. So that gives me a little bit of pause when I'm trying to decide which camera to take with me on a ride or a run. And the other thing I have to think about is that it doesn't have a replaceable battery or memory card. So once it's out of juice or storage, I have to place it back into the pod to recharge and then also offload footage if I run out of room. I don't usually run out of storage during a ride or run, but I have found myself needing to recharge it. Still though, for the convenience, I do like this camera a lot. But last up though, when it comes to cameras, is the iPhone 16 Pro. So this is simply a super impressive piece of kit for capturing footage, whether that's macro shots to wide angle shots to zoom shots. It can do like everything, and everything with really good image quality. Now, being that it is a phone though, I can't really use it like an action camera due to its size. Plus, I certainly worry about dropping it. So unfortunately, I still do need an action camera on most occasions. And then when it comes to the camera button, that's not really a button, but really is a button. Well, I sort of use it, but I think just like everyone else out there, I use it to open the camera app and take a photo or video, but I don't really use a slider control on it to change settings, where I find it just as finicky as probably everyone else out there. But seriously, the quality and the convenience all packed into one just makes it my go-to. And in fact, the majority of the B-roll that you actually see in my videos is from this phone. So next up, let's talk about bikes really quick, as I've had a few questions about what kind of bikes that I prefer. Now, I'm not really a bike reviewer by any means, so for those sort of reviews, go check out Ben Delaney's channel for all things gravel bikes. But I do need to mention the Cervelo Aspero I bought this year, which I've been really impressed with. Now, I've been riding gravel bikes for not just gravel, but also road for quite some time. And this year, I was really considering getting a dedicated new road bike just to be a little bit more zoomy. But every time I got on one, I just kind of missed the comfort of a gravel bike, and that's both the geometry as well as the fatter tires. So what I did instead was get a gravel bike with a bit more aggressive geometry, where I could get that front end pretty low and then just get a second set of wheels with slicks on them for road. And I've been pretty pleased with this kind of setup this year. But the other part of this setup that makes this all work for me is the new 13-speed Red Explorer group set, where SRAM quite simply did a really good job with this group set. And that extra 13th gear just makes it versatile enough where I can actually use it for both gravel as well as road by increasing the chainring size up front by 2 teeth over what I typically use, which gives me a little more top end while still having a good enough bailout gear for climbing. But the other impressive part of the Red group set are going to be the brakes, where they have an immense amount of power that you can call on anywhere on the brake levers. But it's not just about the amount of power, it's also about modulation and control, where you can have as much or as little power as you want, and you don't really have to worry about like tapping the brake levers and kind of like sending yourself. But when it comes to the front of my bike, when it comes to bike computers, so this is kind of a toss-up for me where I either grab the Crew 3 or the Garmin Edge 1050. So I love the size of the Crew 3. It's just the right size where it has a large display, but it's not really unwieldy either. So I can use it for all sorts of my riding. So that's gravel, road, and even mountain biking. Although for mountain biking, I still prefer an Edge 840 since it is a little bit smaller. But overall, I just like the size of the Crew 3 a lot. And I also think they have some of the best interfaces out there, which are also ridiculously customizable. My only complaints about the Crew 3 are going to be the battery life, where I wish that was longer, and the other complaint I have are the buttons, where I just find them a little bit too easy to press, which I tend to do from time to time. But the other computer I tend to grab is going to be the Garmin Edge 1050, and I don't actually use it for mountain biking just due to its large size, but I do love it for gravel and road, where this has a gigantic display that's not only really big, but it's also so good when it comes to visibility and brightness. Now, just like everything, it's definitely not perfect, and there are some things that I'm not so keen about it, like the weight, where it's kind of heavy, the fact that you have to use the touchscreen for many things throughout the interface, and the amount of buttons isn't as good as the Edge 840, but the display is just so good that I do like using it. But the last reason I like the Edge 1050 is that it has a speaker and a digital bell, and seriously folks, that bell is freaking awesome, and I literally use it on every single ride. And then you can actually even integrate it with the bonus buttons on the SRAM Red group set, or even SRAM Blips, and that kind of makes that bell a game changer. Okay, so before we get into wearables, so some other gear I've been really stoked on this year is actually what I'm wearing right now. So this is a hoodie by Path Projects, and in terms of comfort and fit, well, you may have noticed that I've actually been wearing their stuff in all my recent videos over the last few months. So they're a company out of California run by real trail runners, and they specialize in super high quality trail running gear, and they actually work with other athletes and creators like Billy Yang as well as Kafuzi. Now, what's cool about their gear is that they kind of have this like in-between fit of not super form-fitting, but not really baggy like a standard fit, where it's kind of like in between, where it doesn't really feel like it's sucking my will to live, being super tight, but also not really baggy where I feel like I'm swimming around in it either. It just kind of has a nice balance of form-fitting enough where it's not like flapping in the wind, but it's also really, really comfortable. And then the materials themselves are also really impressive, where like this hoodie right here, it's super smooth and super soft on the skin. But the last thing I like about this gear is just how subtle it is. Like, other than the like a little small logo right here, almost all their gear just has a clean look to it, and it doesn't have loud graphics or anything like that. Oh, and then sorry, I forgot to mention probably one of the coolest things about this hoodie. It actually has a cutout right here for your watch. Okay, so now let's move on to wearables, and we're first going to start with headphones, and then we'll move into watches. So the two sets of headphones that I've been using for all my activities lately have been the Shox Open Run Pro 2s, as well as the Sennheiser Momentum Sports. So when it comes to sound quality, fitness, security, the Sennheisers are simply where it's at. They're super secure since they have an option for using a wingtip, but the thing that really makes them stand out for me is the sound quality. These are hands down the best sounding sport earbuds I've ever used. They have great range, and the bass is kind of unbelievable. Now, a highlight marketing feature of these earbuds, though, is that they have an optical heart rate sensor built into the earbuds themselves. TLDR, don't buy these because of that heart rate sensor. I'd rely on your watch or an external heart rate strap for any meaningful heart rate. And I've got a full review linked down in the description below if you want those details. But putting the heart rate sensor aside, again, these are phenomenal. And what's nice about these is that they've actually dropped in price by $100 since they first came out. So I think the price now is totally in line for basically the best sounding sport earbuds that you can get. But the other set of headphones that I've been stoked on this year are the Shox Open Run Pro 2s. So the highlight of these headphones is that Shox went ahead and combined their bone conduction technology along with traditional drivers or speakers. So you're basically getting the best of both worlds with these, where you have bone conduction, which works well with an open ear design, so you can still hear your surroundings, but they also have traditional drivers or speakers, which kind of help and fill in some of the low end that you can't really get with bone conduction. So that blend makes these far and away the best open ear headphones that I've used. And these really are a big step up, where you can get much fuller sound than traditional bone conduction. Again, really, really good. Now, another interesting thing I wanted to mention that I tried this year are blue light blocking glasses. So if you watched any of my watch reviews, you've probably noticed some pretty horrendous sleep scores, and I've historically been pretty terrible at sleep, mainly actually falling asleep. And I've tried all sorts of things like melatonin, hot tea, and even like an 8-sleep mattress. And I do have to say that's actually helped a lot in getting better sleep throughout the night. But when it comes to falling asleep specifically, so this is where I have the biggest issues. So over the last few weeks, I've been trying these new wind down glasses from Roka, which are collaboration with Andrew Huberman. And what these are designed to do is filter out short wavelength light like blue light from screens, which can have an impact on your circadian rhythms. And let's face it, we're all on our screens probably a lot more than we should, whether that's our phones or even our TVs. I'll definitely admit that in the evenings, I'll oftentimes find myself watching TV and playing with my phone all at the same time. Now, even though these do look a little bit odd, these do seem to help where I can fall asleep a lot faster, where I can be asleep within like 5 to 10 minutes, where in the past it would take me like 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes even longer. I just find that my eyes feel less strained and my brain seems to be a little less stimulated using these. Sleep may be one of the best factors when it comes to putting out a good performance, not only in our workouts, but also just mentally throughout the day. And it's just been a huge goal of mine to get better sleep. So these are just something else in my arsenal that I now use to get better recovery. Okay, so now let's finally talk about some of my favorite watches this year. So 2 watches that really impressed me in the budget to mid-level price range are the Suunto Race S as well as the Coros Pace Pro. So the Suunto Race S, it simply brought a lot for the money with almost everything from their original race, but just in a smaller form factor. But not only that, a smaller price tag. Now, it doesn't have a sapphire lens like its bigger sibling, but it did bring better accuracy, and then other covers in terms of software features, basically identical, where it has all the same performance and training feedback, as well as all the recovery feedback. A nearly perfect watch in my opinion, but the less than perfect portion, unfortunately, was the heart rate accuracy. I think the next video I actually have coming up is my long-term wrap-up of the Race S, so stay tuned for that. But overall, I can definitely recommend this watch as long as you're okay with wearing an external heart rate monitor. But the other watch that sits alongside the Race S in terms of price is the Coros Pace Pro. Now, this watch is super impressive in terms of how Coros actually implemented the AMOLED display. So it's not just about having a big bright display, which it does have. The actual speed of getting around the device is crazy good, where you kind of just tear through all the widgets and menus and rest of the interface with little to no delay at all. That's something with the Race S where there can be a delay in some areas of the interface. It's not as sluggish as the original Race, which actually did get a little bit faster with the software update, but the Coros Pace Pro just kind of blows those out of the water. And the area that really makes the biggest difference is going to be with the maps, where the maps don't only look awesome with the AMOLED display, but again, you can just kind of pan and zoom throughout these maps and redrop some maps super quickly. Now, if you're considering choosing between the Coros Pace Pro or the Suunto Race S, so I think it's going to come down to a couple things, where with the materials, the Race S has more premium materials with a stainless steel bezel, but when it comes to usability as well as heart rate accuracy, that goes to the Coros Pace Pro. Now, switching sides really quick from features to aesthetics, so there are actually 2 standouts for me this year, and that's going to be the titanium Apple Watch Series 10, as well as another Suunto, the Suunto Race S, but this time the titanium version. So I went ahead and took the plunge this year and I bought a titanium Series 10. So I've always wanted to get a stainless steel series watch, not because of the stainless steel case, but actually because the stainless steel versions also came with a sapphire lens. But this year, Apple actually switched things up by going with that titanium case, which not only made it lighter, but also they have some pretty great looking finishes to them, and I've been really stoked on how the slate version looks. But what really took it over the top for me are the bands, where I kind of went rogue and I'm not even using a series band with this titanium Series 10. I'm either using the Alpine loop or the new titanium Milanese loop, which are actually designed for the Ultra, but still can be totally used with the larger series watches just fine. But having it paired with the green Alpine loop, I think it looks really great, especially with the reflections watch face, which I have set to a matching color. But the real over-the-top look is going to be the titanium Milanese loop, which I think makes it one of the more unique and classy looks for an Apple series watch. Now, I'll come right out and say that I don't actually think this all makes sense in terms of price, where we're talking about like $700 to $900 for this, depending on which band that you choose, where feature-wise, it's exactly the same as a standard aluminum Series 10. But hey, nice things when it comes to aesthetics don't necessarily make sense a lot of the time, like let's say jewelry or stuff like that. But hey, if you have the funds and want something that's kind of a level up, then go for it. But the other watch that I thought was really incredible looking this year was the Suunto Race S Titanium, and this took the clean look from the original Race S and then upped the ante with a titanium case, which made this one of my contenders for best looking watch of the year. Other than that though, again, just like the titanium Series 10 is identical feature-wise to aluminum Series 10, the same thing goes here, where the titanium Race S is the same as the stainless steel Race S in terms of features. I really do wish though that Suunto would have tossed in the sapphire lens though with the titanium Race S. That was kind of a big miss for me me and would have made that extra $100 worth it a lot more in my opinion. And then last up, let's talk about my top pick for high-end watch of the year. And you may be thinking that I'm going to say the Fenix 8. But nope, my top pick of the year is the Enduro 3. Surprised? Well, the reason comes down to price, where the Fenix 8 got a price bump from the Fenix 7 Pro to $1,200, and that's simply getting up there. And for the features that it added, well, I'm not really sure that those additional features make it an easy button to upgrade. The speaker and the microphone are nice to have from a smartwatch perspective, and the diving features, well, although really great that they have them, aren't necessarily features that a large audience will use. So that's where the Enduro 3 comes into play, where the Enduro 3 is actually cheaper than the Enduro 2 when that originally came out. But not only that, it also comes with way more efficient solar charging, and it's also much lighter, where for being a large watch, this is incredibly comfortable to wear. In fact, my buddy just texted me the other day asking which to get, a Fenix 8 or an Enduro 3, price not being a factor, and I told him hands down, the Enduro 3. Now, the Enduro 3 doesn't have an AMOLED display like the Fenix 8, so that could certainly be a deciding factor for you if you want the brighter display. But I do have to say that the Enduro 3's display is better just due to the fact that they actually removed the translucent solar panel that was on top of the display on previous models, which makes the display on the Enduro 3 just a little bit more readable. And yeah, those are my top picks for all the gear that I've been kind of stoked on this year, and I'll have some links down in the description below where you can check out all the latest prices and go ahead and pick them up if you'd like. And those are going to be affiliate links that do help support the channel without costing you anything additional. Anyhow, I definitely want to hear about your top picks for the year as well, so definitely let us all know what kind of gear that you've been stoked on down in the comment section down below. And if you found the information in this video to be useful, do me a favor and just hit that like button, and also subscribe to the channel for tons of good stuff that's right around the corner in the new year. I hope you all had a great 2024, and here's to a great 2025. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.